Okay, Brad. James Parker, how's it going, mate? Thanks for hanging tight for a few days while I get situated here in Texas. I just had my car delivered today, so my computer and my mic were in the car, so I'm good to go now, pretty much. Right, mate. So let's pick up where we left off from the last lesson. Number one, right? This is what you get a tick for, right? This is what you get a tick for. Incremental knee flex. Good. Right. So that's so much better. You can see how in your takeaway now you're not totally locking your knees. Right. You're not just getting that right leg straightening. Everything looks it looks more flowing now, doesn't it? Right. The knee flex is the knee flex corresponds with the amount that you move in the club, right? As the club moves more up to the top, you're going to straighten your right leg more and flex your left leg more, right? So that looks great. And also, by the way, let's put some lines down here. One through your club, one through your right elbow, right? I think with regards to angles, you do a very good job, right? Club comes back on that lower line. You're moving your hands and the club to the inside, left arms across your chest. Your hands and the club are kind of dissecting your right bicep. You get to the top, your left arm's parallel with your shoulder plane. You come down and it's just underneath that top line, right? You get it a little bit more. You get it a little bit more underneath that top line coming down. If you kept your lag, which is what we're going to talk about in a second. But even coming down into impact, hips are out the way, shoulders are out the way. Right foot we're going to talk about in a second. Exit, clubs coming out through underneath your left shoulder, hands come out underneath your left shoulder, right? You lose your connection there a little bit, right? So when you finish, you can see all that space underneath your left armpit, right? You want to hit balls where you're keeping a T-peg underneath your armpit, right? And that'll keep your connection, right? You can see there how you've just lost your connection a little bit, right? But besides from that, with regards to angles, plane, path, club face angles, that's all really good. The problem, right, and we'll keep it there. The problem, like you said in your email, is you're dumping the club coming down, right? So you can see instead of increasing the lag coming down, you're actually throwing it away, right? So by the time the club comes down and starts bottoming out, the club is just going to bottom out before the ball, right? So you're going to hit fat shots. Instinctively, you're gonna try and pull up, and that's where you're going to hit your top shots, right? So because the low point's too far back, you're going to hit fat and thin shots. That's what I'm saying, right? The low point being too far back on the circle causes those two shots, the fat and the thins. Now, let me get rid of that line. The reason I drew those that little circle where your head is, to the left of your head, and this straight line going down through your body, is to illustrate where the center of your stance is, right? The center of your hips are over the center of your feet, right? But your head is to the right, right? Now, this wasn't the case in your first video that you sent me. If anything, you're actually leaning a little bit to the left, right? So this is a new pattern, right? So you can see there your head is actually, if we draw a straight line down, your head's actually closer to your left foot. Now your head's closer to your right foot, right? So this is a new pattern. Now, obviously, if you're the head, where your head is, and then as you start back, your head moves even more to the right. Look, right? Then your head moves even more to the right. So, and then as you come down, it stays to the right, right? So basically, your head. I'll do this in blue. Your head is too far back over your right foot, right? So therefore the mass is too far back. It's keeping your weight back, right? And therefore it's affecting. I think that's the root cause of, or one of the root causes of you dumping the club a little bit early, right? So I mean, that's an easy fix. We're just going to now move your head to the green. To the green circle and the green line, and I want your head a little bit more over your left foot, right? If we're going to make a change, you've got to do the opposite of what your bad pattern is. Okay, so your bad pattern here is that your head is too far back over your right side, right? So what that tells me is the center of your shoulders, which is that the upper body axis point is too far back, right? So therefore that's keeping your weight back, and you can see there when you you can see here when you swing, you look at that right foot and look at how much your right foot's still on the ground there, and even impact, post impact there, look how much you're still pushing down with that right foot, right? That's because your head is still too far over your right foot. So that's a pretty easy fix for me. We're just going to do the opposite. We're just going to get your head and move it more over your left foot, right? And then swing that way. So basically, if you exaggerated it and you had your head sort of over here, right, then you're going to hit past the ball more often. If you've got your head over here, right, you're more likely to hit behind the ball here. Okay, so go to the range, practice that, get your head centered more over your left foot than over your right foot. That's what it's going to feel like. Right, that's what it's going to feel like. And then as you, we'll talk about that lag. We'll talk about your lag in a second. But you can see there how you see how that right foot's still kind of pushing on the ground, right? Now let me show you an example. Good example. Andy Plummer, right? Watch his right foot. That's off the ground, right? So at impact and post impact there, that's off the ground. You see how it's sliding back? So all the weight, right, the hips have moved forward, right, all the weight's moved over his left foot, over his lead foot, all the pressure is on his lead foot, right? So this foot can actually slide. And if you watch the pros when they slip, they actually slip because this right foot slips backwards. It slips this way, right? Now you look at where he's there, where he could literally lift this foot off the ground because the center of his hips now is more sort of over his lead foot. All the pressure's being pushed down into that lead foot, right? And you look at where you are with so much pressure staying down here on this back foot. Well, that's going to lead to a lot of the other stuff, right? Number one, being your lag, which we'll talk about in a second. But there's your head. There's his head, right? But look how he just comes gracefully, right? Just comes gracefully up slightly out of that circle to his finish position, right? And because your head's so far back over your right foot, right, in your swing, look how you've now got to kind of lunge upwards to get onto your tiptoes to finish. You know how to finish, right? It's just getting there, right? So that's kind of the look with the finish. We could do with your head staying back here a little bit for a little bit more right tilt at finish, right? But, you know, definitely sort of there, that look with your right foot. Still too much weight, too much pressure on your back foot compared to, you know, Andy Plummer, the stack and the inventor of the stack and tilt, which is all about weight forward, right? Sliding your hips forward, getting the mass, this bit over your lead foot, right? And because it's all about that, there's no pressure in this back foot, right? At impact, there's no pressure in that back foot. Look, it's off the ground. I mean, you could just pick it up. So I think that would be a good drill for you, right? I think that would be a good drill for you. I think a good drill for you would be just to hit little shots, just about there, maybe a little half swing finish, right? Where here, Andy Plummer could hit little shots and balance on this left leg and on this left foot, whereas you're still balancing on both feet, right? You can see how much pressure you've still got on that back foot there. So that's your drill, that's your exercise. You just hit little shots just to there, right? But by this point, you've already got to be balancing on this front foot, right? If you're feeling any kind of balancing, any kind of pushing down on this back foot, the trail foot, we're not doing it successfully, right? We need all the weight, all the pressure on this lead foot. This back foot, like Andy Plummer, you should just be able to lift off the ground in the air there, right? So while we're here, right? So the new swing, the head's going to be more over here, right? The head's going to be more sort of still centered, but slight bias towards your left foot. And let's go with that and stick with that for the time being, right? To get you out of it being so far over your right foot. That in a model swing, if we want a model swing, right? We want the head in the middle of our stance, right? So therefore the center of the shoulders, right, is in the middle of our stance. Now that's in a model swing. I want yours a little bit more towards your left foot, your front foot, because I want you to break the habit, okay? But in the model swing, you can see where his belt buckle is there. The model swing is the belt buckle is just going to be a little bit forward, right, to then give you a very fractional right tilt, right? And because the hips are forward, you're then going to have a slight little bit more pressure on this lead foot, under this lead foot to start with, right, in your static position. So there's going to be about 55% under the lead foot and about 45 under the back foot. That's to start with, right? For you, because we're now doing this drill where your head's going to be forward, I don't mind if you're feeling 60, 70, 80% under that lead foot, right? I don't mind that at all. And then as you go back, then you can transfer the pressure under your trail foot up to about there, right? But from that point, now you've got to start transferring the pressure back under this lead foot, right? So by the time you get to the top, you should have already settled back under your lead foot, right? And I just don't think so. So you can see the kind of action you've got going on there as the club starts moving down, right, with your left foot and your lead foot, and you're pushing down under that lead foot. But that needs to happen sooner, before the club completes the backswing. Right, you're letting the club get to the top of the swing there, right, and then pushing down under your lead foot. I want you pushing down under this lead foot before the club gets to the top of the swing. Okay? Like this. Right, so I hope you're seeing that there. Club's still going back, and he's pushing down under the lead foot. Club hasn't started moving down yet. But he's pushing down under the lead foot before the club starts down. He's pushing down under this foot, the lead foot, before the club starts moving down. Right? That's important. Right? So then you can see that kind of look, right? And we'll get him down to P5, left arm parallel with the ground, and then we'll get you down to P5, right? And you can see the difference in lag there, right? So when left arm is parallel with the ground, right, you can see the difference in club positions there. Yours there, his is back there, right? So he's storing more lag, right? So you're going to have to feel more left wrist cock, right, and more right wrist bend, right? I think he's, you dumping the club is either coming from you not keeping the right wrist bent, right, or you not keeping the left wrist cocked, right? And if you throw the right wrist away, that's going to throw your left wrist cock away, and if you throw your left wrist cock away, it's going to throw your right wrist bend away, right? So you can see his left wrist is cocked, right wrist is bent, and he's storing that all the way down, 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 boom. Right. And again, look at the right foot. The right foot could easily just come up off the ground at this point. Right. He's just letting the right foot roll. There's a little bit of pressure on the inside of his big toe. Right. So you're staying on this foot, right? There's no loading and exploding. You're staying on that foot too much, and you're dumping the club with your wrists, right? That's the best way to explain it, right? So where your hands are there at impact, underneath your left shoulder, right? You can see the difference in shaft angles, right? So that's why you're hitting it fat. Okay. So I made a few notes here, and I've shown you the Andy Plummer video, right, where he's all on his left foot. He's balancing on his left foot. You've got to get used to, in a nutshell, Brad, you've got to get used to hitting the ball balancing on that left foot. It's all about this foot, not that foot. Okay, it's all about this foot. So you've got to get used to balancing on that foot at impact, right? And then it'll be much easier to come through to a nice finish post impact. And you can see the difference there. One of the big things we look for in a good golf swing, what I look for in a good golf swing, is how the right heel always leads the toes, right? Is how the right heel always leads the toes. What do I mean by that? I mean that your heel is behind your toes. There. See what I mean? So your heel, this heel is only going to get in front of your toes if you've slid your hips enough so that the center of the hips is over the lead foot, right? And then you can easily balance on this foot, right? So like we said in the first lesson, you got two central points: upper body, center of your shoulders, what your head sits on, center of your hips, right? We've just established that the center of your shoulders is way too far back. Now you might be sliding your hips okay-ish. You could still get your hips more forward, right? You can see how the center of your hips is kind of not quite over your lead foot there, right? But I would do it both. I would get your head and your hips over that lead foot, right? And just to get used to having the mass over your lead foot, to get used to balancing on that foot. And then it won't look so awkward with your finish, right? Then you can start to develop a finish which looks kind of, well, let's put a circle where his head is. Then you can start to get a finish which looks kind of like that. You see how graceful his head just comes up and out the circle? But if we stopped him there, right, number one, his hips are over his shoulders. Hips are over his lead foot, right, and his head is only just come out. Well, let's keep his head in the circle there until maybe P8 post impact. But look at the right tilt there, right? So to do that, your head's got to be in the middle of your stance, and your hips have got to slide forward, right? So that's the part we've got to kind of really work hard on, right? We've got to stop having so much weight on that foot, pressure on that foot, and get it all on this foot, balance on this lead foot, right? This is the foot we've got to focus on, right? You've got to get the so watch the load and watch the weight and footwork model inside the academy, right? It goes into this very, very deeply, right? How the pressure works, the weight model, the pressure model, how the pros do it, right? And it's basically you load this right foot up under this right foot, the pressure going back. You've then got to settle back under your lead foot. You've then got to settle back under your lead foot at the top, which you don't do, right? You can see that just from seeing that, you've still got too much pressure on this back foot, right? So you have to load the pressure back under this lead foot at the top, and then by halfway down, left arm parallel with the ground, you've applied the most amount of force under this lead foot, right? That's the ground reaction forces. And you can go and do research with how that works at bodytracksports.com. They make the BodyTrack mat, the pressure mat, and they've got all the statistics of all the PGA Tour pros there as well. And the general pattern is halfway back, 80% of pressure under the trail foot, halfway down, 80% of pressure under the lead foot. So in a professional swing, they've only just started down there, and they've already got 80% of the pressure under their lead foot. That's what loading and exploding is, right? You load under the trail foot going back, and then you explode into the lead foot coming down, right? So you can go through that video course to understand how that works. But with regards to the drill, like I said, hit little shots just there and go slow with a short club, a pitching wedge, a 9-iron. Hit 50% swings, right? And just hit little shots and stop just after impact there. But you've got to get used to balancing on this front foot, right? And then go and practice that for a few weeks. Send me a new video back in a few weeks, next month, making sure that you are now balancing on that foot at that point. I don't want to see any kind of pressure on this back foot in the next video, and then that will really and I think just doing that, the process of doing that, will also help your lag as well. All right, but understand that by applying force underneath that lead foot to start down, right, it produces the chain reaction of movements through the body, right, through the leg, through the hip, through the spine, through the shoulders, through the arm, and then into the wrists, right? So by practicing that, right, by literally going to the top and practicing that is going to have a knock-on effect all the way up through into the wrists and through to the club, right? You're then storing the energy, right? You're storing the lag, which will then get your hands more forward and get that shaft leaning forward at impact. Okay, mate. So that's your little drill. Practice that. Push down. You want 80% of the pressure under your lead foot by that point. 80% under that lead foot by that point. Right. So it's worth isolating, the top to there. It's worth isolating that and practicing that as a drill, just to build up your proprioception, right? Just to build up the new feelings and train the new patterns. And then with regards to, obviously that's a drill, but when you're hitting shots, just hit shots there, just to there, right? You look at where Grant Waite is there. You look where, let's get Mac up. Mac O'Grady. So again, look at the right foot. The right foot could easily just be coming off the ground there. This right foot could easily just be coming off the ground there. All the pressure is in this foot. Right, just hit shots to there. Just hit shots to there. Get used to balancing on that lead foot. Okay, mate, any questions, just shoot me an email. Cheers, Brad.